Techwear, performancewear, outdoor wear. They're fashion terms for much beloved, coveted and collected genres of fashion, but what started as a niche has evolved exponentially, and so has its influence on the wider fashion industry. Nowadays, with the developing hybridized styles and trends, the phrases have been osmosed and techwear is thrown around with the likes of performancewear, sportswear and athleisure. The fashion industry is now so populated with these themes and the signatures within them that the words have transfigured past their origins. The techwear and performancewear influence has been seeded to every corner of the industry. But how does that affect the community, customers, or brands, if at all? Tomorrow's insight: the power of performancewear. It's a techwear takeover. What is techwear? It's a term used to describe clothing that's constructed with special fabric, form and properties that provide breathability, range of movement, water resistance and comfort. Performance wear has these qualities too, but is usually designed specifically for a sport or exercise. Techwear is for everything that life throws at you. A lot of us think of techwear as this edgy, avant-garde, cloaked black aesthetic, and throughout history there are certainly examples of that. But actually, the genre has evolved so much since then. That's often why you see the phrase morph with the term performance wear, because the field is no longer just pensive, precision-cut black outerwear. Those signifiers are gone. The subculture has just expanded, engulfing performance wear and outdoors with it.
I prefer the word performance wear because the word techwear, for me, it's very associated with a time and place.
Even if I still call it sportswear, to me it's the same. I mean, I used to call it sportswear. It's just a matter of language sometimes.
Jackets, trainers, trousers, these pieces provide both utility and comfort. There's an undeniable appeal for pieces that are designed to go above and beyond their aesthetic value. That's just one of the reasons why the space has such a subculture surrounding it, and why the world has adopted many of the techwear and performance wear scene's traits, processes, ethos and ideas. Those that eat, sleep and breathe the world of techwear and performance wear, of which there are many, are a dedicated community, fascinated with the purposeful, practical qualities these pieces, brands and styles possess.
The psychology behind why people are drawn to more technical stuff or garments that offer, above and beyond average function. There always seems to be a magpie moment for me was when I was little, seeing CP's Metropolis range on people a lot older than me and wondering what everything did.
People were definitely drawn to techwear because of that authentic idea that you are wearing something for a purpose. People would rather know that it functions for a specific purpose. It's function before fashion in this context.
There can be something quite tribal about the fans of the techwear and performance wear genre. Many were introduced through music, through the sports often attributed to the key pieces, namely running, cycling, hiking, skiing, the influential characters affiliated, or were just fascinated by fashion that felt so removed from the hubbub of high street or high fashion.
I think a lot of people in this space are doing a lot of digging within, old archive catalogs, old archive pictures of products and whatever, and learning.
There are pages, groups and events dedicated to the fabrications, the sports affiliated, or the nostalgic feel of archival pieces.
Everything that you reference in performance wear, it is sort of rooted sometimes quite far in the past. So even though you're using innovative approaches, materials, advancements in seam building, performability as in sweat wicking, all those things. They've all been around for a long time. So there is something to be said about those of us that are kind of invested more in perhaps 80s, 90s, 2000s pieces. And then the other side of the community, which come to it, I feel more from the fashion point of view.
The people in this space are super knowledgeable within the past and are able to identify a lot of the references within our products and understand why certain elements of a shoe is there for a particular reason.
The community can be much like the devout music scene. Any disruption or signs of inauthenticity sends sparks.
A lot of us in the space on either side are quite sure of how we feel about things. It seems to attract those types of characters. We're confident and we know what we like, and somehow we feel we've earned the right to kind of deem what is, perfection functionally or style-wise.
It's not news that the industry has long been referencing the techwear and performance wear space. In the past few years, this has skyrocketed to the runway, with the more recent trend of Gorpcore, so named from the hiking term trail mix, good old raisins and peanuts, being a large instigator over the past decade. The trend was reinvigorated with the pandemic, as was Performancewear's studio wear subsidiary. We wanted to bring the outdoors in. We wanted that sense of escape, self-improvement, mindfulness. What some years ago was simply a trickle of inspiration from the techwear performancewear scene is now a deluge.
It's been bubbling for a little while. I mean, I still remember going to Pitti back in 2012, 2013 or whatever, and everyone was hyped on Valence then. There were certain guys that would only wear Valence coats and stuff. So I think it's been around for a while, and maybe because Valence was that step out of the outdoors more into an urban environment, that it made more sense for a lot of those people.
I think we see now that they are clashing, and they also did clash together before at certain moments in time, but now it seems to be maybe more formative or something that will also engage more change on a global scale. At least that's what I'm hoping.
As with any big change amongst the subculture, this development has been met with mixed reactions.
It's an extremely judgmental space.
Fashion has a cycle which is very fast. I think that's also largely why there is so much appropriation. It's because the cycle is too fast at times.
This element of people getting into Gorpcore and not actually doing the things that the jackets are intended, or not just jackets, but whatever the clothing or footwear was intended for. And I think there's that divide within the community where it's almost you're not using it for its intention purposes. So why did you get it?
When fashion wants to do outdoor, they should reach out to the people who are actually involved, and then pay them for consultancy, pay them to make a capsule collection for you, and not do appropriation. Because what happens many times is the people who then design technical clothing or running clothes or outdoor clothes, they spend their vacation on a boat on the French Riviera. And I'm happy for them to be spending the summer on the boat, but maybe then you just should make some sandals,
They are masters of appropriation, right? They will take a whole subculture, which is perhaps defined by maybe 3 or 4 garments, functional garments, and they appropriate for speed, for seasonality, for collections that people that have no interest in the original culture or piece then buy for thousands of pounds.
So in the end, it's still a subculture. It's a really growing subculture. And maybe then the trickle-down version of this subculture is the fact that now people in London and Milan are wearing Bottega shoes with Arc'teryx jackets.
I know a lot of people, they think it's their culture, like sneakers, and it needs to stay where it was. And that you just need to let go, I guess.
So we've reached a pinnacle in the fashion community, drawing from technical materials and technical apparel, and bringing that into luxury design. This seems to separate the two halves of the community. So a lot of us are okay, well, that's great, but fashion's going to drop all this technical advancement when it doesn't suit them, and how much are they actually contributing to the advancement of technology on this side?
Alongside the appropriation of style and authenticity, there's a lack of actual testing behind the product when in the high fashion sphere. Performancewear and techwear brands go through rigorous testing processes, putting their fabric developments, shapes and finishes through their practical paces. Their price tag reflects this. They are luxury performancewear pieces that customers know to trust. Oftentimes with high fashion, your price tag is for the logo.
That's kind of the main difference, right? So when we do for the professionals, if you were in the Arctics and you head out in the morning and you don't know if you're going to be away for 1 hour or a week, it takes a lot from the garment. That's kind of the shield between them and the elements. And I think my first fascination started with the thought that if a zipper breaks, then the wearer might actually die because you can't close your jacket anymore.
I think, the evolution of clothing is that's at the core of it, effectively, because, most things in technical things in this world are tested at a particular level before they become mainstream. And, you can look at anything from like the space race through to car design, and how technology in those sort of like forward-reaching elements are now quite widespread and commonplace. And it's the same with fabrication and the way fabrics evolve and are, developed. There's so many things within fabrics now that have come from the technical side and performance side of clothing that are now commonplace across, many sort of, domestic ranges, as it were.
The demand of that techwear performancewear consumer has changed with the wave of fashion appropriation too. There is more of a need for duality in a product. For those that don't partake in any of the cross-terrain sports affiliated with these products, there's a demand for something that suits the urban lifestyle.
I think for this whole category functional wear, where it's coming from, it has a certain purpose to keep you comfortable and protected when you're in a very demanding weather situation. I think that demand isn't really there in our daily lives. You only need the jacket when you walk to your car or maybe the train. And then for the rest of the day, you don't need the jacket anymore.
No matter what woman we spoke to, very, very different kind of, in their taste levels, backgrounds, all of that kind of thing. They all have the same frustration of, why isn't there something that I can wear that feels cooler, that I can be more functional and practical in, but I don't necessarily look like I'm going to rob a bank, or like, it's like so ninja wear.
Not everyone needs to buy a 3-layer Gore-Tex Pro made by, say, Arc'teryx, which is maybe the industry standard, because you don't need that in London, in the city.
That whole kind of outdoor, outside Gorpcore space is just constantly evolving, and fashion and functionality in that performance world are kind of becoming more and more enmeshed. So there's definitely an opportunity there to create something that, has that duality. And I think that's what, a lot of people are looking for. Like, they want something that looks beautiful, but if you're going to get drenched on the way to work, or when you're out for a hike, or if you're on the side of a mountain, you are not going to get wet. And it doesn't have to be non-fashion, but it can also be super performance.
It's nice to see that a new audience sees our clothes, and even better if that kind of encourages them also to kind of seek into nature, and by getting to know the clothing, it's easier for them to actually then go into nature, or the other way around. Maybe wearing something from us on the street gives you that connection back to nature, or remembering that really nice summer hike. So you take some of those elements back with you into your kind of daily life. But then, of course, since it's so kind of trending right now, it also gives us again the possibility to do some things that are even a bit more fun and might be slightly on the outside of our core, but still, again, then always paying attention to those technical aspects of it, and that everything should work.
With this widening of the sphere, there's arguably more opportunity to experiment, more brains storming around technical fabrics and finishes. Many brands, such as Patagonia, have been pioneering environmental practices long before the word sustainability even entered the mainstream stratosphere. As many brands are often experimenting with fabric technologies, they often use that capacity to explore sustainable options. This seems to be a field where brands are having a lot more fun with experimental eco ideas. But most within the techwear and performancewear scene are talking about the sustainable practice of longevity.
Well, yeah, longevity and circularity for me are kind of really interesting points of discussion, because there's nothing more sustainable than having a product once and it lasts a lifetime.
Having the right quality, meaning that you can have a jacket and love it, put it in your closet, it stays there for a couple of years, then you can take it back out again, since everything moves in circles also fairly quickly, I'd say. So sometimes it's just about putting something away and then taking it back again, or handing it down to your children or friends and so on.
I have lots of old jackets and things that I still desire, and they have the longevity to withstand that usage. And for me and for Otti, it's building product that, has that desirability level, but it is timeless. And in 5 years, 10 years, it feels like, how you would dig out an old North Face.
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to create stories, albeit maybe they're more fashion centric, but if I'm going to create a running inspired shoe, I want to make sure that I'm making it for all the right reasons. You know what I mean?
But how does that tie in with the mass wave of performance wear and tech wear?
Actually, yes, you can wear the one jacket that you have, the one Gore-Tex jacket for 5 years, and you can have it reseamed or adjusted. But again, like all these brands are in a business that's super fast. They need to put out new products. Some of these are publicly traded, so they need to look where the value goes, and it's supposed to go up. So they can't really not make more.
But there is also this element of consuming what you truly need, which I think is very dominant in outdoor. And I'm in between those two spaces, but the real outdoor people I know who only care about what happens in the mountain, they are not people who own 5 versions of these jackets. They will buy a new one when the one they have is worn out. So they are not doing it for style in the end. And maybe that's what make their sort of image very desirable in terms of grittiness or look as well.
Whether we are product designers, garment designers, creative directors, stylists, there is always a level of kind of coldness, of acceptance that, things move forward. They are appropriated, used, and kind of thrown out. It is on a societal level, right? Not just clothes. But I think the issue is with garments it's so incredibly wasteful, and yet garments are so essential to our enjoyment and confidence in life.
I think the visibility of functional and outerwear and the whole outdoors theme, which we are pushing, creates this need for people to get into it and buy more shit.
Overall, it seems that the techwear performance wear community is adjusting to its time in the spotlight.
We live in a new culture. We are almost completely digital now in how we choose our identities and what we choose to display to the world. And we have to accept that opens up a new audience.
Ultimately, the techwear performance wear brands, industry leaders and influencers will triumph in their authenticity. Their customers and community will continue to sniff out the truffles of truth over trend.
I think the new generation is just starting learning some product that was out of their age when they were younger. So I think it's a natural evolvement of a culture of a person, knowing better product, understanding, what is made better than other, and creating his own taste through the study also of what other brand did before and what we are doing in the technical territory.
And some people are really, they have that nagging in their heads, like, no, it needs to be small, it needs to be mine, which it's just really not how the world works, I guess.